What's up, everybody? My name is Cody Yard, and I am the host of The Buzz with the Fuzz. It's Apple Valley's Police Department podcast. We're going to do some fun stuff with this thing. We're going to do chatting with the chief. We're going to do some Q&As, and we're going to do some longer format podcasts where we sit down with folks from specialty units, and you guys get to learn about who they are and what they do. I got my start in journalism back in 2002 as a combat correspondent in the United States Marine Corps. Really excited to be the host of this podcast here with the police department, and I'm really looking forward to bringing you some new fun facts and information that you might not know about Apple Valley's police department. So stick around, buckle up, and let's have some fun. All right, folks, thanks for coming back. We're going to talk some 4th of July planning. Sir, please introduce yourself again.
Well, my name is Greg Dahlstrom. I'm the Deputy Police Chief, and one of the things I do for the department is special event planning.
When you say special event planning, obviously we got 4th of July coming up. We got Freedom Days. What else do we have? Is there anything monumental that we have remaining other than the Freedom Days celebration?
Nothing to that magnitude. We have Concert in the Park series at Kelly Park every Friday night through the fall, actually. But that doesn't require the same level of planning that this does. It's just more of assigning a couple folks there to go hang out and listen to music and help lost kids find their parents. It's pretty low key.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So obviously Freedom Days is a big deal, and we draw a lot of people from other cities to come down here and take part in that celebration, especially the fireworks. We got our little carnival set up out there. Where's that at?
It's over at Johnny Cake Park East, so it's kind of in a kind of big rectangular area between Johnny Cake Ridge Road, Pilot Knob Road, down to 142nd Street, and then north up to 140th.
Yeah.
The best landmark would be Eastview High School, or just to the east of that, and the big play fields there, and all the ball fields that our softball fans probably have frequented.
Do you know how many people historically have attended that?
You know, it's hard to judge. There's actually a formula, right? Like if you took an aerial picture and you took the area and how people stand, but we haven't got to that level of detail. But it really is. It's very dependent on the day of the week that the 4th of July celebration falls on, and also the weather. You know, if it looks like it's going to be stormy, people tend to stay home, or if it's super hot, folks will just kind of come out for the fireworks, and everybody will pile in kind of at the last minute right before the fireworks are shot, and then pile back out of there. But it's really dependent. Our Parks Department has said anywhere between like 10,000 and 15,000 people, 15,000 obviously being on the perfect storm, you know, sort of Thursday night before a holiday weekend, before everybody goes out of town, that kind of stuff is typically draws a little bit bigger crowd. And then obviously if the weather's going to be nice, that's a big factor too. So a lot of folks are kind of last minute on whether they're going to show, which presents a little bit of a challenge for planning, but at the end of the day, it's the same geographical area, so it's pretty easy year over year to figure out where folks need to be.
Yeah, I'm sure once you have a plan in place, it's just kind of implementing personnel then.
Yeah. I mean, it really is. You know, the personnel part it's a challenge for us because everybody that gets hired here for Apple Valley since I've been here has been told, hey, here's the drawback to coming here. You work 4th of July. So I hope you don't like it, which is a bummer for me because that's my birthday week. So usually it's, you know, so for everybody that likes to do 4th of July stuff with their family, it's just an expectation that everybody from the chief to the most junior community service officer, everybody's going to work that day. It's all hands on deck to get all the different objectives done.
Yeah. It's not just the fireworks and the carnival in the afternoon. We also have a big parade.
Right. Yeah. The Freedom Days parade, the setup for that starts in the early hours of the morning. I mean, obviously the planning happens much before that, the day of, but the floats and all the vendors and those folks, they're starting to come in, you know, as our day shift is starting at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. So it really does become an all-day event for us. And so essentially we break it up into two halves. The parade and our folks that typically work during those hours in their normal work schedule handle the parade detail for us, and then those folks that work, you know, the mid to afternoon to evening shifts handle the fireworks detail and the carnival.
Yeah, so the parade, I'm sure the planning for that has evolved in terms of how we prepare for that and that sort of thing. But recently, I think we were talking about it maybe the last 6-7 years, we had a pretty significant incident that happened right before the fireworks, and that has really shifted how we plan for 4th of July events, especially the fireworks. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. That was a heck of a night. And I think there's actually two things that pushed us there. It's that we were personally involved. You and I even were personally involved in an incident that could have gone much, much worse than it did. At the end, it was a pretty benign deal, but at the time, it was significant to all of us, such that we went back to our current the administration at the time and said, "Hey, we're doing something wrong here, and here's why." But the other part of it is that the landscape at public festivals has changed too. And when I say landscape, I mean the threat level at some of those events has also increased, unfortunately, over the years. And there's been stories recently of significant events happening at community events, and not just shootings and fights and things like that, but targeted, planned, things that we're aware of, and if we're aware of them, we should plan for them.
Yeah.
And so those two things kind of came together and a few years ago, and we said, hey, we need to do a better job at this. Is predictable when you put a large group of people together. You add a little bit of alcohol, maybe you add just it's hot out and people tend to start bumping into each other. It is predictable to think that there could be problems. Human nature sometimes, right? And so knowing that it's predictable, it was time for us to pay attention to it and put a little more effort into taking care of it. Yeah, I mean, our experience, it was, you get two cops together in a room and you start talking about the things that we've been through over the years, and that was a tough situation. I'll start with maybe the call that got me there, and that was you guys and your partners that were assigned. At the time, we would assign a few folks maybe on bike patrol just to kind of be a visual presence in the crowd. We didn't really have a really defined security element, I would call it, or roles within it. It was just, hey, grab the bikes and go out there and go. That was kind of the extent of the plan. But I remember you guys calling for help, and I got there into a fairly chaotic scene.
Yeah, it was almost like Thunderdome. That's what it felt like,
right?
Because we were right up against the softball fence on one of the fields, but it was a fight. It was two juveniles fighting. At the end of the day, you want to take care of it and eliminate that problem as fast as possible. It doesn't have any less value of like two adults fighting, but it's a different situation, right? Yeah. And so me and one other guy from bike patrol, we ride our bikes right in there. We each latch onto a juvenile. And our third bike patrol guy rides in, and I get my guy cuffed up real quick, and I'm like, hey, what's your name? And he says his name, and I'm like, what? Normally this young man did not cooperate with law enforcement. So it was really interesting that it was a very run-of-the-mill handcuffing. There was no struggle, just click, click, and we're done. And I remember looking over, and I see my other partner cuffing up his person. But what struck me was that third officer had his bike and was using it like a cattle gate, trying to keep the crowd back. And I looked up in front of me, and it felt like 200 juveniles just surrounded us.
Yeah.
And I remember yelling at a young lady, like, get back or I'm going to spray you with mace. And she gave me the go-ahead to do it. And I was like, well, I guess this isn't going to be effective. And I've got 2 ounces of this. I'm going to affect maybe 5 people at best. And I'm just going to make everybody mad. And you were in there about that time. And I remember I think you had your mace out too when you were threatening.
I did.
But that was I just remember thinking after that, we all kind of sat down and chatted about it, and we were like, that was like we were one brave person away, right? Like,
yeah, and it was one of those things that sticks with you. We were kind of talking about it before we started, that I will remember that call forever, because not that it was life-changing in a way, but just that it was one of the few moments I can count in my career where I was like, yep, that could have went really bad.
Right.
And it was also, I think it stuck with me because it was the first time where we work in Apple Valley that the crowd turned on us. And that was really unusual and felt really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because that isn't normally how it is for us. Normally, if we have to take enforcement action in front of a bunch of people here, 2/3 of the crowd's going, hell yeah, get that guy, cuff him.
Right.
Yeah. And then the rest of them are like, I'm not even going to mess with this. Or maybe they pull their phone out or whatever. But that was the first time where I felt like we lost control,
Yeah.
at a police call, and that isn't a comfortable feeling for us.
And well, now that you vocalize that for me, and then that's why it feels so weird.
Yeah.
Like that's why that call felt so weird.
Yeah.
I guess I hadn't even put that together, but yeah, I mean, we just had no control over the crowd, and like you said, the crowd turned on us.
Yeah. And that was a very uneasy feeling, and that was, you think about the era of policing that was in, that wasn't, post George Floyd, that was kind of in that space between Ferguson in 2014 and what we experienced during the civil unrest here in Minnesota. And so you think about it like, man, that was weird that those folks turned on us, because we have a really good relationship with our community. So it was really unnerving to have that happen. But the interesting part, I mean, we lost a flashlight. One of our partners, we weren't sure what the heck happened, if somebody took it off his belt or if it fell out during the struggle or whatever. But we definitely knew that it was time to finish business that we were conducting there and get the heck out of there. It was.
We bolted out of there.
Yeah. We don't usually turn and move quite that fast when we're taking care of things, but we certainly did to get out of that environment.
Yeah, I remember it being kind of like, everybody ready to move? Let's move.
Yeah.
Like a hasty exfil, I think is what they call that.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting because we took refuge behind the carnies, which you wouldn't expect. You wouldn't expect to be the safe place to go.
We're hiding behind the mini donut stand over there.
Right. But hey, I mean, you go to the last place you knew was safe, right? And I know we had a couple squads over there, and we took care of it. And at the end of the day, it turned out to be a couple few disorderly conduct tickets and a couple people that were yelling at us or whatever. But the scary part about it was that the lights went off on us. You remember that?
Right. Yes. Yeah. Right as well.
I mean, you think about, like, we were actually in ideal conditions for being at night, right? Like, all those stadium lights were on. It's a lit softball field. Yep. And right before they shot the fireworks off, they turned the lights off so everybody could enjoy the show. Yeah. And here we are in the middle of this melee, and they shut the lights off on us. And like I said, we're losing flashlights and not quite, we didn't want to get a gun grabbed or another tool taken off our belt or something. Yeah. So that one key point bought us our invitation with the Parks Department to be part of planning. After that, I shouldn't say bought us. We forced our way into hey, we need to be a part of this planning piece so that this never happens again, and we don't.
Because they had no idea what we had going on, and no fault of their own. They just okay, time for fireworks. Click. The lights go out.
Yeah, and as is often the case with what we do, we change our policy and procedure and our preparation because a mistake was made, or in this case, an inadvertent sequence of events happened that put us all at risk. And that big thing was turning the lights off. And we know it from working at night. Like, light is your friend. I mean, that is your literal lifeline to be able to navigate through whatever you're dealing with. So
it's really interesting that I continue to work at night because I am scared of the dark.
That's why I work during the day now.
Okay. Yeah. Well, good for you.
You'd be proud of me, though. I got a charged flashlight with me all the time, so
okay.
I could still do something.
Stop out in case in the event you see something.
No, it's more like if I drop my pen under my dark desk in my office, then I can find it quick. That's all. No, but it doesn't seem like, maybe to our listeners, it may not seem like a really profound moment, but for us it was, because just to do a better job at paying attention to those types of events in our city. And since that time, a bunch of us have gone through some training. We've evolved the way that we handle special events. We have an operations plan for every major event that happens in the city. And it's not just city festivals, right? Like, politicians come to visit. Right. Sometimes controversial speakers come to some of the venues in the city. Yeah. And so there's a bunch of components now that we know that we should pull into that planning piece so that we're not surprised. And so that we have a procedure in place so that they don't turn the lights off on us in a critical moment of a law enforcement call. And so, I mean, they always say that necessity's the mother of all invention, right? And so that's the case here. And really, now it's the industry best practice to have an operations plan each time there's going to be a big event in the city, and to have your contingencies planned for, and to make sure that you build the necessary layers of staffing and security and support into that. But most important for all of that is creating an incident command system where there is direct coordination between the people that are making decisions.
Yeah.
And so to use the 4th of July as an example, we now manage that event by having leadership from the police department, the fire department, EMS, and the parks department all in the same spot. We use our command truck, we deploy it out. And so that way there is no question about what's going on operationally before we go to each different step of that event. And really we break it down into a time sequence. It's called the MESL, or Master Sequence Events List. And so you basically go down to, hey, here's a benchmark we need to be at before we go to the next thing. And so the fireworks is one of those things. Perfect example for it. Hey, is the weather good? So the fire guy is the safety guy, right?
Yep.
Hey, is the wind blowing too hard for us to safely fire fireworks, or is there a storm pending or whatever? So the fire handles kind of that safety aspect. And then whoever the law enforcement commander is looking at the law enforcement calls that are going on in the city at that moment or at the event, and going, yep, okay, this is a safe time for us to do it. We've got the staff in place. We've got our security contingencies ready to go, and yep, we're good to go. And then the parks department is going. They're talking directly with the fireworks vendor and saying, hey, are we good to shoot? Yep, okay, we're good to go. Everybody concurs. It's like NASA. Everybody turns the key at the same time. Yep, we're good. And it's not that you want to turn this into some big presidential event, right?
Right.
But we do have a responsibility to the people, that our staff that we have out there, and the people that are coming out to enjoy it. They expect it to be a safe place. They expect us not to fire the fireworks when the wind's blowing 50 miles an hour and we burn somebody's house down,
Yeah.
So we've evolved that, and some of this is kind of incident command nerd stuff to talk about, but it's interesting in that it's just a better way of doing business, and it also drives the other things that we do, and it creates a better relationship with our fire department, with our parks department, and when the bad thing happens in our city and we have a weather event or an explosion or something like that,
right,
we'll immediately have relationships with the leadership folks from the different divisions within the city, and it's a no-brainer. We've already had the feeling out period. We've already had maybe a planning session or a disagreement or something that we've been able to work through. And so those relationships being in place for a relatively routine event, right? Like 4th of July, we do it every year. We know the plan. That really matters to have in place for when the unexpected event happens within the city. And that's the whole idea is learning how to plan together and then knowing how each other is going to work when we're under stress, when the really bad thing happens.
Right.
So
yeah, I think one of the biggest things one of the key takeaways for that, which is an acronym that you like to use a lot, which is WIN, what's important now, like what's the next steps that we need to do to either secure, to stop, to save lives. Like, you guys have that plan in place, or at least you have that relationship where you can look at each other and say, how do we best serve each other in this moment?
Yeah.
Like, how do our agencies complement each other?
Yeah. Yeah. And the relationship matters because each different discipline is going to have to lead at a different point, and each different leader is going to have to subordinate themselves at a different point during that incident.
Totally.
Especially during the stabilization part of that incident, there are going to be fire and EMS related things that I have no business making calls on.
Right.
And so it's really important to have that chief sitting next to us to say, hey boss, this is all you take it. Yeah. And then if that butts up against a law enforcement operation that's in that stabilization period, then we work that deconfliction together. Mm-hmm. And so the relationship piece is the part that really matters. And if we can't get along in a conference room back at City Hall during, a budget meeting or something like that,
right,
how do we expect that we're going to be able to do that when we're, we have a huge building on fire, or we have a fight and a bunch of officers engaged with some ruffians in the park,
Yeah.
So it's that part matters, and it's good to practice that plan. And my other favorite thing to say is that hope is not a good plan. Right. And we talk about it in the training world. You and I are trainers. We have been for a long time. Right.
Yeah.
And one of the things we try to impart on our students is that you are not going to rise to the level that you think you're going to be. Right. Like, you can't hope that your performance is going to meet the occasion, right?
Right.
What you're going to do in 100% certainty is fall back to your level of training and competency.
Yep.
But that's the same thing in event planning too, is that we can't hope that this event is going to go well. What we know for sure is the work that we put into the plan ahead of time by gathering everybody's cell phone number, getting contact information, getting resources that we think we may anticipate needing, and getting that stuff put on the front side of it. And it keys into all those different pieces in law enforcement. And one of the things that gets cities in trouble, gets police departments in trouble, is stuff they should have known better, right? You see it on the news.
Yeah.
You see it on the news, and you're like, how do those guys not know better than that? Really?
Right.
Like, there's got to be a senior guy or gal somewhere there that should have said, hey, maybe we should do this differently, And the key is to listen to that, So
Yeah.
the incident that we had that drove a lot of what we changed within our city, and it's been a good thing, in that we do plan for each of those events. The city now expects it. When we start planning for these events, the Parks Department is calling me or calling one of our other folks that do incident management, going, hey, do you guys have the plan started? Can I take a look at it? Do you have a copy of it? So they expect that from us, which is great, because then getting the information and getting them on board, that's already happened. It happened years ago. So they're active participants in it, and there's no like siloing off of information. It's just out there, and we can get to it quick.
That's cool. Was it siloed before?
Yeah, not intentionally.
Yeah.
Just because I don't think anybody really saw the need
Yeah.
to have that coordinated planning.
Yeah, I didn't think it would be intentional. I was just, it's kind of one of those things like, we know that fire's got their plan and they're going to work their plan, whatever that is. And I mean, we're not fire, so we don't live in that world. So that's cool. Good. You guys have your thing going. By the way, we got our thing going. Don't worry about what we do over here.
Right. I would, when you put it that way, I would say that, yeah, there's probably a little bit of that. I mean, the plan we always had was for traffic control, because that was really the role that we were asked to do.
That was our law enforcement's role.
Correct.
And that was a big thing, because I remember right when I started, I was like, man, Johnny Cake and 142nd, that's an easy intersection. I'm going to make sure that next year I get Johnny Cake and 142nd. Everybody's got to go right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And so that was one of the interesting things that came out of this planning, was that we've been able to free up some of our law enforcement resources to have a bigger presence in the park.
Yeah.
And to rotate people through there, because foot patrol and bike patrol can get tiring, especially on hot days like the 4th of July typically is.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. We've definitely used more cones now than we do people. And you're 100%, the right turns only make things easier.
Yeah.
But we've tapped the fire department, and something new that's, I shouldn't say new, but was a novel concept to me, was using our public works folks. That's a whole untapped resource in the emergency management world. And the funny part is, or not funny, but the thing I learned was that they're very good at it. In fact, their leadership has gone to many of the same incident, like ICS classes that we've been to, the incident command classes. Yeah.
Huh.
Because they play a very vital role in exactly what we asked them to do.
Yeah.
And so getting their plow trucks out and using, big heavy vehicles to block intersections.
Yeah.
It's a great resource for just crowd safety, so we don't have a vehicle inadvertently, hit a pedestrian that's walking through the street. But it's also a deterrent for a vehicle-borne threat,
Yeah.
And so that's why when you come to 4th of July, you see a couple big fire trucks parked across intersections. You see a couple big plow trucks. And one of the things we learned through the funeral planning for Burnsville was all things road and intersections, public works, all throughout the Twin Cities Metro was willing to take for us. So we didn't have to put a cop at every intersection or a reserve or an explorer.
Yeah.
These guys do it all the time. They have their trucks with the yellow lights, and they know they block lanes and change the flow of traffic as a routine part of their job. And you never think like, hey, during a law enforcement incident or a pre-planned incident, you could tap them as a resource. So again, kind of nerd stuff to get excited about. But when you think about, we're a department of 58 people, right? 58 officers. We chew those those resources up really, really quickly when we start talking about security and the command element, traffic control and all that. Those folks go away quickly and they're assigned out. And so being a smaller department, we have to tap into those other resources too.
Yeah, especially when we split that resource.
Yeah.
Right? Day shift, and then everybody at 1600 on. That's the big split. And
Yep.
so you only get half of those resources at a time.
Right.
Because we, like you said, everybody's working that day, so we split them up.
Yeah.
It's good to have the, I know that like investigations will come out and help supplement day staff with things that are happening in the city for the parade route and that sort of stuff.
The interesting thing for folks that folks might be interested to know is that there's layers of security built into both of these events.
Yeah.
And so it's may not just be the uniformed officers that you see out at an intersection or out on their bikes or in a patrol car. There are some other resources that we bring that are available to respond to a higher level of threat. And so in the incident command world, they call that a hostile event, like being prepared to respond to a hostile event. So that's not an accident. That's not a medical. That's somebody or some group that's intentionally targeting the event because of the fact it's an event. There's a lot of people there.
Yep.
And so there are a few things that we do to layer in that capability as well. Probably won't get into talk about the specifics of it, but just know they are unseen and unheard unless they're needed.
Right.
But they are there and vigilant, to protect the people that are there and to be another layer of help to the officers that are working.
Yeah.
And there's also the medical piece of it too. One thing we haven't talked about a whole lot.
I was wondering about that because I know so medicals are still happening around the city and in our neighboring cities. I would assume that we have for the 4th of July event, we have medical staff on standby dedicated to the event.
We do. The challenge, as you know, this work in patrol, the challenge everywhere is getting trained paramedics and EMTs to staff up ambulances. I mean, that is
right.
They are under a staffing crisis even worse than we are in law enforcement. It's tough to get people into that field. And so our paramedic service, we have a LINA that we contract, our city contracts with. They do not directly assign a paramedic rig to our event, but what they do is factor that into their staffing model for that day, knowing that we have a large event. So we have an event, and then Bloomington has an event as well, and we are both in their service area.
Yeah.
And so what they do is overstaff the paramedic rigs that cover those areas. What we do locally, and this is really part of that joint incident command, is that our fire department actually staffs up for all of our basic medical needs on the grounds.
Yeah.
So 2 firefighter EMTs we grab a utility vehicle like a Gator, or I think they even have a
UTV or like a Ranger, a Polaris Ranger or those.
Yeah, exactly. And they have one that's built for responding to medicals. They can get a stretcher on and stuff. So we actually, the fire department staffs that up for us. And so they respond to all those basic level calls, and then they will, kind of take control of that situation and decide whether or not we need to have a paramedic level ambulance come. So there is very fast emergency medical care that'll happen on the event grounds.
Yeah.
And then if there's a higher level of care needed, then of course they'll coordinate that with a lineup. So
that's cool. Just based on the training that we have changed through the police department and like how we respond to medicals. And especially things have changed significantly since COVID, but I remember there was kind of a big push and maybe some pushback from patrol when we stopped doing like the EMSRB first responder type stuff and like, hey, we're gonna remove some of that patient care responsibility from law enforcement and transfer that over to the fire department. I mean, it makes sense in a sense of like we already have enough on our plate in terms of like where we have to be knowledgeable, but then also giving the fire department an opportunity there to then do some career enhancement or career enrichment, but also they might be more interested in that than I am.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, you and I both know like the tactical emergency medicine side of that is things we should be good at.
Yes.
The trauma care,
Yep.
CPR, managing airways, gunshots, tourniquet, that kind of stuff, just to kind of talk about that decision making, and it goes into why it works well in the event, is what, as police officers, when we respond, what are we best at? What are we really good at doing? And we're all really good at CPR and managing an airway and doing some of those higher level things, because those things are easier to remember. They're not quite as nuanced, from some of the things that we used to do or used to provide care for. And same thing with event staffing. Part of it is looking at what are the firefighters really good at. Well, there's probably not going to be a structure fire in the event grounds, but given their higher level of emergency care, because they're all EMR or EMT, they are going to be very good at stabilizing a patient for some of those lower level things until we can navigate the challenge of getting a paramedic rig in. And it's just, that translates onto the road of, what's our biggest impact for those first couple minutes. If that person's talking to us, they're moving around, they're walking and stuff like that, there's probably not a lot one of our officers is going to do. Yeah. But if they're down and they're overdosing or they can't manage their own airway or whatever, we're pretty good at that. We can do that and handle it. So it's kind of, I had an old boss once that used to always tell me, like, aces in their places. You take the people who are good at what they do, put them in that role, not so good for career development and enhancement, but in an emergency situation, taking the people that have those skill levels and plugging them in where they're best suited, that probably makes sense.
And then when those people are on the ground and they're involved, they naturally gravitate towards that position anyway. You see it all the time. You see people moving into a space where they feel comfortable and kind of taking control.
So. Yeah. Yep, absolutely. That's what our cops are really good at. Even things that would typically be sort of a fire thing, like an accident. Our officers are really good at going in and stabilizing that situation and making it safe for the firefighters to come in and the paramedics to come in, and everybody, again, aces in their places. Everybody's got a role in that stabilization part of that call, because we have investigative stuff we have to do afterward. But those first few seconds, first few minutes are pretty crucial to make sure that we don't cause a bigger problem by our response to the thing we're there for. We don't want to have to call 911 for the 911 call we're already on.
Right. Yeah. I think the most important thing that we should probably talk about is the lunch plan for the... Are you going to be out grilling burgers and brats again this year?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
good.
I mean, like I just got done saying, aces in their places, right? I'm probably marginally capable to log into a police car and go take calls at this point in my career. So, yeah, normally the police and fire leaders that are there cook dinner for everybody. Yeah, we kind of take a little pride in that. It's kind of cool to be able to do that for folks. Yeah. I think one of our sergeants has already been tapped with making food during the day, and I might have convinced him to flex his schedule to come be our cook.
To be the grill master.
I think he's going to work till 8 o'clock and make sure that that's fired up. In years past, talking about the safety guy, we've needed the fire chief to wear his Nomex gloves because the grill we use is so damn hot. We get this big grill from the parks department, and we tend to overfill it with coals and get that thing about 2,000 degrees.
When you're flash sear and everything, you have to, right?
Right. The problem is they're flash seared and then red in the middle. So. Yeah. No, I think we'll have some more talented people coming out tonight, but on the 4th. But yeah, and the big thing is taking care of our folks. I think we might even have a guest hydrologist involved in coming out and doing some sports performance stuff for folks on the 4th of July too.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, so I think we want to make sure we keep people upright and walking around with all the gear they're wearing.
Absolutely. And all that gear takes a toll on you, especially foot patrol. Was recently at a K9 training, and the instructor was talking about, you have a heavy metal dog, and your dog just wants to headbang all day long. But this job is 90% church music. Right? And I was like, well, that's a pretty amazing analogy, not only for the dog, but also for us. Yeah. Right? Like, this is kind of 90% church music. But then 4th of July is more of it's not a heavy metal day, but it's definitely it's an octane day on Sirius XM, right? Because you're out, you're walking around, you're on your feet more than you would be normally when you're just out patrolling in your squad car. it has the potential to take its toll on somebody.
Yeah, it's more of a AC/DC day than Rammstein probably, and it's a day that it's kind of tough to be at work while everybody else is
Totally.
at the cabin or at the pool or
Mm-hmm.
at a fireworks celebration somewhere else. So
Yeah.
we try to make it at least palatable, and like I said, everybody from the chief to the CSOs and explorers and stuff are working that day.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of an expectation,
Yeah.
and we've in the event planning this year, we tried to get people some time off, but one of the challenges we have is public works folks. That's a holiday for them too.
Right.
Firefighters. That's with our paid on call firefighter system, like that's tough to get volunteers to come in and do that. And so it falls on, who's the 24-hour face of the city. That's us.
Right.
That's our department, and it's just the expectation that we'll just handle it and take care of it. So the bottom line is we'll get everybody in there safe and let them have a good time, and then get everybody out safe and efficient. And if you're a community member listening to this, please be patient as you're coming in and out. The guys and gals are doing their best to get you in and out safe, and it's just know the crowd's going to be big and the traffic line is going to be long.
And we promise we won't throw flashlights at your cars.
Yeah, we've probably moved past that. It's what we knew at the time. Now we know better.
Yeah, that's old police. This
Right.
is new police.
Yeah, we might throw a glow stick at you maybe if that's
Yeah. But it'll be on the ground to show you where to go.
right. Yeah. No flashlights, but please, really be. We want you to have a good time and come and say hi to us.
Please, yeah.
Yeah.
You see us driving around, especially if we're in the neighborhoods, because we still have cars out driving the neighborhoods available for calls in the event that something happens.
Yeah.
Not everybody is concentrated at the event. I think I'm a call car again this year, and so if you see me, wave, I'll stop, I'll get out and maybe do some impromptu meet and greets with Virgil.
Yeah.
Any idea on amount of vendors and rides, anything like that?
No.
Kind of out of your scope.
Yeah, and the Parks Department handles that piece of it. I mean, kind of talked off air a little bit that we sort of influenced in the planning side of this. We influenced where we wanted the carnival to go.
Yeah.
Because in years past, the carnival was sometimes a focus of salacious behavior. I don't know if that's the right word, but
Yeah, kind of.
yeah. I mean, unsavory behavior.
Yeah.
And so we strategically parked the carnival right across the street from the police command post. So we thought just by presence and being friendly neighbors,
Proximity.
Exactly. Yeah, we might.
Deterrence by proximity.
That's right. Yeah, having all those police cars parked out there, we might influence behavior to make some better choices. But so I mean, the carnival really isn't. It's not that big. It's
No, but it's definitely good for kids.
Yeah.
Good for families to come out and enjoy it and have fun.
Yeah, I think people much more get a kick out of the state fair type food. Mini donuts and corn dogs, that kind of the stuff you'd expect at a carnival. That stuff's always there. So it's a good time. And, for those listening, we'll close off Johnny Cake Ridge Road again between 142nd Street and 140th. So there's an area to...
Safe place to cross.
Safe place to cross, hang out with the kids, play Frisbee, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a carnival atmosphere there. It's kind of fun. And it's controlled by the big plow trucks and fire trucks. So it's a safe place to be. And, we look forward to a good event this year. We'll see if we can manage to have a dry, reasonably warm day.
Yeah.
And,
because I'm looking outside and I see that the rain has kicked off again.
Yeah.
I was just thinking we could finally use some rain, get the grass green around here.
Right. Yeah, the problem with rain on the 4th of July is the 5th is the alternate day. So if the fireworks don't go away, the show goes on the 5th if the weather allows it.
That's a great point.
Yeah. Rinse and repeat.
Or do we cross our fingers and
we've talked about that as a contingency. I think we would take the plan from the day before and page everybody out and bring everybody back in. Or at least as many people as are available too. As it's the one time you don't do that you end up having some major issue.
Then you get somebody who is going to log into Facebook and change beliefs, but do it in person.
Right.
And we are Meta out there to police those community guidelines.
Yeah, exactly. And it's we just again, if you know it or you should have known it, you should have done something about it.
Yeah.
And so it would be important for us to do that. I would imagine we could probably scale it back because I don't think the crowd would be quite as big, especially the way this week sets up. I think folks will probably be on their way to some other something, you know.
Yeah.
But we'll cross that bridge if we come to it. The good part is we've got a good plan and we've got good people that can come in and make it happen.
Yeah. So I'm going to spring something on you because I do this with everybody. You are an avid golfer, but you are also an avid fisherman. So I'll let you pick. And I know that you've golfed some historic courses.
Yes.
You've done your fair share of fishing. So you pick. What is the number one place you want to golf now, or what is the number one fishing expedition that you would like to do?
Well, golf is top of mind because I have 2 kids that are avid. Doesn't even rise to the level of how psycho they are about golf.
Okay.
So golf is top of mind, and we broke our boat trying to go out to South Dakota, so that the boat's been in dry dock for the last month and a half. So fishing's taking a back seat to golf. But the top place I would want to go to, I mean, you can't have that conversation without mentioning St. Andrews. I mean, the old course at St. Andrews is the mecca of golf, you know.
Right.
We've been very fortunate. I've actually played at 2 of the St. Andrew courses. I have some family that actually lives in Scotland. So in both times that we've gone over to visit, we've played a different course at St. Andrews.
Very cool.
Not the old course. I think there's 7 or 8 that are part of kind of the St. Andrews brand or complex there. This last time we played a course called the Castle Course, and I played with my brother-in-law, my now 14-year-old son, and my 17-year-old son. Both of my kids are actually, my brother-in-law was too. They're all high school golfers, and I'm the hack that goes with them. But so we played at a course called the Castle Course. It was literally cut into the cliffs of the city of St. Andrews, and it was beautiful. It was a really tough course to play, but we have some pictures of my sons with their uncle that are just priceless, you know, to be able to do that. And my sons will tell you, if you asked them, they rated the courses we played in Scotland by how nice the bathrooms were. It sounds very weird, but
no, not when you take into account 14 and 17-year-olds.
Yeah, exactly. But they were amazed. We were in Scotland, we were in Edinburgh, we were in Glasgow, and then we went over to up to St. Andrews, and then we went to London. And so my sons were just enamored with the fact that all of the bathrooms in Europe are very, very nice in compared to here in the U.S. So they started doing that with golf course bathrooms, of course. So So anyways, St. Andrews, the bathrooms at the Castle Course were by far their number one ranked.
Okay.
Their number one ranked. So if I ranked place to play, I would say the St. Andrews Old Course, and they would say it would be the Castle Course bathrooms is where they'd want to be.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not what you expected, but
no.
You sprung the conversation on me, so, you know.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
St. Andrews, going back and actually playing the old course, it's actually pretty challenging to get on it. And
I could imagine.
Yeah. So it used to be that you could go wait in line. Like you guys would go and like put tents up and like sleep in sleeping bags because you could go the night before and wait in line to try to get onto a spot, and now they don't let you do that. So you have to plan like months. 2 years in advance to get
2 years?
Yeah, I mean there's always openings, you know, you can keep looking to try to go, but yeah.
Do you think they would accept my PCC membership?
I don't think so. and there's no chance of taking a cart, so you don't have to worry about that. So
so it's all you got to walk all 18.
Carts are not a thing over in the UK.
No,
Yeah.
Do they give you a caddy, or do they give you somebody to say like, hey, probably want to play this one safe. It's not worth going for it.
No, that becomes pretty self-evident when you start running out of golf balls, and there's more of them out in the English Channel, or I don't think that's the English Channel, but whatever it is out that way.
Yeah.
You know, but no. One of the interesting things, they have powered carts. I'd never used one before.
The electric one that it just carries your bag and you just push it forward and it runs on its own.
Yeah, it's like R2-D2 with a bag strap. Yeah.
Huh.
They didn't have the remote ones. It had like a throttle on it, and you could walk and turn it up and down.
Yeah.
The problem was there's no like tether on them. meaning like like a jet ski, right, or a surfboard. You stay connected to the thing you're trying to drive. Not so much here. And there's a course called Glen Eagles. They've played the British Open there a couple times, but we played golf there. And my 17-year-old gets this power cart, turns it up to 10, hits the go button, and the thing slips out of his hand. And so now he's on. So imagine a Scottish, like, grumpy starter guy standing there. Here's my kid losing control of a power cart at 10, and meanwhile he's literally ripping a donut into the tee box at Glen Eagles on the number 1 hole. I would love golfing over in Europe, and especially Scotland is amazing. They treat it very seriously, and the starter was horrified that we ripped up the tee box with
you Americans.
I am certain that's what he said. And he actually walked down the hole with us. Like, he walked us all the way up to the green. And he was very, very pleasant. He was telling us about the course and the history and stuff like that. But I am pretty certain he was
just keeping an eye on
just chaperoning us up there. Make sure we didn't tear anything else up.
Make sure you keep those power carts off the greens.
Yeah. So, but
That's
you'd think
funny.
they'd put a tether on it so it would stop, because
Yeah.
you literally will go until it hits something or runs out of battery. If anybody ever got a chance to go play golf in Scotland, it's quite amazing.
Yeah. I wasn't a golfer when I visited Scotland, at least to the point that I am now. So it never even crossed my mind.
Yeah.
Even to just go and check out a course, just to go check out the clubhouse. That would have been cool.
Yeah.
Missed opportunity. Guess I have to go back.
Well, yeah, and the cool part is you don't even have to. So if you're interested in golf history or whatever, you don't even have to play the old course to walk on it, because technically it's a park. They don't get spun up about people. In fact, you'll see people walking their dogs down the paths of the golf course. Yeah, you can walk right alongside the road to go to like the famous bridge. Like, everybody just walks right there, and you jump out while someone's past you. Jump out on the bridge, take a couple pictures, walk around, and jump back off. So it's
awesome.
Yeah, the city of St. Andrews itself is actually a super beautiful place. It's a lot of people, or at least I didn't know that the University of St. Andrews is sort of that's actually really the heart and soul of that city, more so than the golf industry there, and that's where many of the royals attend college. Like, that's the tradition. You go to college at the University of St. Andrews, yeah.
Huh.
So there's a beautiful campus. There's lots of really cool spots to go have a beer or have dinner or whatever.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, St. Andrews is a destination place, even if you're
not into golf.
Even if you're not a golfer.
Yeah. Thank you for the golf history lesson. and for the bathroom ratings.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fantastic. On 4th of July stuff, other than bring the kids, have fun.
Yeah, I mean, be careful talking about 4th of July, be careful with fireworks, especially if you're going to come out to see our fireworks on the grounds. Mm-hmm. Please don't bring your own.
That's a big thing.
Yeah, it's just there's too many people in too close proximity. It's not that we want to be the fun police. In fact, I think all of us enjoy fireworks, and even even the stuff you can go buy in the Cub Foods parking lot. But a lot of that stuff is not made locally, and quality control always isn't the best on that stuff. And you just hate to have something tip over or blow up inadvertently or whatever and injure somebody. So be careful with that. Same thing at your house, not to sound preachy, but you got to be careful with the stuff that goes up in the air and things that blow up.
Yep. Please don't get visits from us.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
I mean, and if we do have to visit you, we'll be cool.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed.
Nobody wants to come out and wreck your day.
No.
So.
No.
All right. Well, I think that'll cover it. Thanks, Greg. Thanks for coming back on. Glad we got to talk about this stuff and talk about a little bit more lighthearted topic than the last time you were on.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for having me back. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, folks. Hey, folks, we want this to be engaging for you as well, so please drop a comment wherever you follow us on social media. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to this podcast. Tell your friends, tell your family. We'd like to get this out to as many people as possible. We want people to know who the police officers of Apple Valley are. If you have questions or comments, something you'd like to hear about, reach out to us. Let us know. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to address some of those topics that you guys have questions about as well. We look forward to having you back next time.